G'day everyone, how you doing? It's Lawrence, aka the Kiwi, back with another video. And as the title says, this old guy has done a couple of acid trips. And actually relatively recently, beginning of last year, end of 2020, December of 2020, and beginning January of 2021. The reason why I'm being open and authentic about this is I mentioned that I was going to talk about this in an update video that I did when I first got back to the United States. And then also I've had a lot of people in the comments section on my near-death experience video saying that what you experienced was, you know, a DMT trip. What you experienced was this, you know, a DMT trip, same as what happens if you take acid, blah, 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 blah. And I'm actually here to tell you that the experiences that I had doing acid are remarkably different to what happened when I actually died. So let's get into it. Little backstory. Basically, what made me do this was, as I was heading into the end of 2020, life in New Zealand was just getting so out of hand in every respect, from the whole lockdown COVID situation to stuff that was going on in my professional world to stuff that was going on with my family. Everything was just so out of hand, it was ridiculous. And my anxiety levels, which I'd never experienced anxiety in my life until I'd gone back to New Zealand, and my anxiety levels were just going through the roof. It didn't matter what I did. It seemed like everything that I did when I was trying to do the right thing, it was always backfiring and being blown back in my face. So it didn't matter how hard I worked, people weren't happy. It didn't matter what I tried to do for my family, they weren't happy. It was just misery all around, on top of the social and political stuff that was going on down there. It was just ridiculous. So I was explaining to a co-worker about what I was experiencing, what was happening and everything like that, and what it was doing to me. He's like, dude, it's like, you need to do some acid. I got some hits of acid if you want to try that. And I was like, dude, I'll try anything. I mean, seriously, I'm at the point where I don't know what to do. This is just getting so ridiculous. So he gave me 3 hits of acid. And it was the end of 2020, December, when I first did the first hit. And what I was actually hoping for was literally the same sort of experience that I had when I died, crossed over, experienced that whole situation. And I've actually had a couple of out-of-body experiences that have just been absolutely the most remarkable experiences that I've had outside of my N.D.E experience. And what happened with one of my out-of-body experiences, it was like a really massive brain reset. It was actually a pretty incredible experience, like really incredible experience. Got to talk with my guides on the other side again, all that sort of stuff. So I was hoping that the acid would get me to that point again. Because my ability to meditate, to center myself, everything was just slowly but surely disintegrating, and it wasn't a good experience. So the first hit that I did, nothing even remotely close to having an out-of-body experience, meeting my spirit guides, same thing that happened in my near-death experience, not even close. Great feeling. A lot of tingly nerve feelings from head to toe. Colors were amazing. I was able to focus in and actually have the bright crystalline white light slowly but surely wrapping around me, but I wasn't able to go any further than that. I felt like there was a limit to what I was able to do. However, it was a great feeling. I had those lovely feelings of warmth, love, happiness, but again, not on the same level as what happened with my out-of-body experiences or my near-death experience. So I was good with it. I was fine with it. It kind of eased me. I felt more relaxed. After I did that, I was able to kind of recenter myself a bit, which was nice. I needed that. However, like I said, it wasn't the exact same experience that I had when I died, or when I've had these out of body experiences. So I went with it for about, I think it was about 6 weeks. And I was like, okay, well, maybe my body is a little built a sort of an immunity to these sorts of experiences, just based on what I've done, what I've experienced, all that sort of stuff. So I had two hits left. So I took the second one to have another trip, and it wasn't doing anything. I mean, like, it wasn't doing a damn thing. I'm like 15 minutes into it. What's happening? Nothing. 20 minutes. Nothing. 25 minutes. What's going on? What's happening here? 30 minutes. Nothing. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I was like, well, maybe that tab was a dud. Maybe there was nothing on it, sort of situation. So I, against my better judgment, I popped the second one. Well, when I popped the second one, about a minute after I popped the second one, the first one started to kick in. And that first one was like, oh boy, it was like, it was hitting hard. And when I mean it was hitting hard, it was hitting hard. It was just like, I just started to feel myself like exiting my body and just hovering between being like halfway in my body and halfway out of my body. It was a really, really surreal experience. And I touched myself and it was just like, oh my gosh, your nerves were just absolutely not on fire, but the sensitivity of all your senses were just a thousandfold. I was like, okay, now we're talking. And while I'm starting to experience that, I'd completely forgotten about the second hit that I'd taken, right? So I'd taken two solid hits. The first one was coming in like nothing else on earth. So I'm just like chilling out there, just taking everything in. The colors and the brightness of everything is just becoming absolutely unbelievably just like nothing I've seen in this earthly realm. Very similar to what I experienced when I was on the other side. However, still not 100% the same. I did start to have those feelings of the warmth and the love, those really good feelings washing over me. And then as I'm taking this in, the second one hits. It's starting to kick in, and it's just going, all those sensations and everything are just growing and growing and growing. Like I started to feel like the same thing that happened when I was a kid, was I could start to zone out, and you just start to feel like everything's growing around you. Like my hands felt like like everything was just growing as far as me. It was the expansiveness of my soul was starting to take control of everything. And I don't know how long I sat in that, to be quite honest with you. However, what happened as I was experiencing this, I was able to bring my focus down to a pinpoint. Everything around me would wash away, and then I'd be able to bring it back, and then it would wash away again. But I was never able to go the full Monty. I wasn't able to cross over to the other side. I wasn't able to experience the other experiences that I've felt with my other experiences. So I kind of just started to move around. I got up, I went outside, it was nighttime, I laid down, I focused on Orion's belt, and it was just like, I just had this, when I'm looking at Orion's belt, there was another star up in the Orion's belt constellation that was blinking. That would blink. Just blink at me. I'm like, and I just had this feeling, I was like, no, that's where we're from. That, whatever that little blinking light is up there, that star, which you can't see that star normally. Like, I've looked up at Orion's belt since then so many times, and it's like, where's that blinking star? It's not up there. You can't see it. But when I was having this experience, it was there. I was like, wow, this is a trip, you know. And as I'm laying there looking at the constellation, everything started to join together. You could start to see the sacred geometry to everything. Like, it was like lines were going between all the stars. And I was just like, oh, wow, check that shit out. You know, it was starting to, everything was starting to make sense, right? So I just carried on fiddling around. I could look at the woodwork in the cottage that I had, or I could look at the concrete on the ground, or what have you, and you could see the sacred geometry, that circular spiral sacred geometry and everything. And believe it or not, that's something that stayed with me to this day. Like, if I get to a quiet point in my mind, or where my mind starts to shut down, I can start to see that sacred geometry and everything. It's like if you look at your fingerprints, you see those swirly circles, or a person's hair, their crown and their head, and you see how the hair swirls out from there. That sacred geometry is in everything. It's absolutely amazing. And I mean that. It's absolutely genuinely incredible to be able to see that pretty much at will. So what happened was, while I'm experiencing this, I don't know why, but all of a sudden nature started calling. It's like, hey, I need to go to the toilet. I was like, oh no. And I mean, oh no, because the fella that gave me the acid, he literally was like, dude, you know, one of the things you don't want to do is, you know, you don't want to look at yourself in a mirror. You don't want to do this. You had a list of things that you don't want to do, right? So I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. So I knew I had to go number 2. So as I go into the bathroom, I look in the mirror. Wow. 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 I finally got to see who I am. I got to see who I am in the eyes of other people, how other people would view me. Like, I've always looked at myself in the mirror and I've been able to see what I think is me, what my mind thinks is me. But what I shown in the mirror was a reflection of what you see. And I was blown away by that. I was absolutely, because what you see is completely different to how I see myself. So to be able to see this version of myself was absolutely amazing. And I just stood there for like, I couldn't tell you how long, just looking deep into my eyes and the structure, my nose, my whiskers. You could see the sacred geometry and the growth of the skin. It was just like, oh, dude, it was absolutely awesome. Then I remembered, I was like, oh, heck, I got to go number 2. So while I'm go to the toilet, I'm sitting down, take care of business. Well, the cottage that I had terracotta tiles everywhere. Well, actually, the whole floor was terracotta tile. And while I'm sitting there, I'm looking down at the floor, and all of a sudden, one of the tiles starts to like move, and it's a face. And it's kind of a gargoyle-y face. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like this. This kind of isn't cool. And I'd heard people say that, you know, you can end up having a bad trip and this and that and everything else. So what I did was, I got finished up. I tried taking my attention off this, but what happened was, because that one tile started that loop in my mind, everywhere I started to look, I started to see stuff. Not cool, not evil, but just gargoyle-y stuff, faces in everything, like in the walls. And then as I got up and I'm like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? And I wasn't freaking, but I wasn't happy about what was going on. And then it hit me. I was like, I remember what it feels like when the hand of God was on me, when I was put back in my body. Yeah. So I went back to the living room and I sat down on the couch, and actually I didn't sit down on the couch. I got some cushions and I sat down on the floor and I started to meditate. Started to focus in on the energy coming through me, coming down through my crown chakra, down through my pineal gland, my throat chakra, my heart chakra, and then down to the lower chakra and then back up. And I started that flow of energy, right? And I was like, okay, this is good. And then I focused in on when God put me back in my body. Now that was when shit got real. Unfreaking believable. I was just shot out of my body up through that chakra, that energy, wherever that energy comes from, I went back up through it and I was gone. It was just like rocketing through this tunnel of bright light, just rocketing through it. And I'm just like, whoa, God, this is incredible. And then it just went out into that big black inky darkness that is between this realm and the heavenly realm, that area where you check out of the combined human consciousness and you just go into that black void. And I was like, okay, I know where I'm at now. And I had those feelings, not as strong as when I died, but I had those feelings of the love, peace, tranquility, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I know where I'm at. I know that I'm at this point between the earthly realm and the heavenly realm. So I wasn't freaking out or anything like that. And I'm just kind of like chilling out and like, okay, how do I get from here to where I've got to go sort of situation, where I wanted to go. And then all of a sudden I just felt this booming voice right through my entire being, my entire body. And I was just, it says, hello, Lawrence. And I'm like, what? And I turned around and it's like, there's the Godhead, this huge head, massive head. And again, it was all sacred geometry. It's like all the stars in the entire galaxy had all come together to form this head. And I was just like, hey, boss, how you doing? And God goes, I'm doing good. How are you doing? I'm like, I'm here. And he goes, I see that. And we had started having this conversation. Well, what came out of the conversation was he gave me a, how can I word it? It's really, because you communicate through consciousness, to put it into words is that much more difficult. But it was like God knew that I wanted to know his thoughts. God knew that I wanted to experience everything that God knew, right? And through our conversation, through this, he goes, well, you want to know what I know. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. I'd really like, and he goes, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, God goes, here you go. And all of a sudden that same hand just goes onto my head. Oh my God. And it was unreal. It felt like an eternity where this energy was just flooding through my being. And I was just literally like floating there. I can't say I was sitting there, like floating there. And I was just like, just like my whole being was just being rattled to its core with this unbelievably profound knowledge on everything in regards to how the entire everything works. And I mean everything. And then, bam, I was back in my body and I was just like, oh my God, what was that? Like, I just couldn't get over what I had just experienced. And that's when I just I just gathered myself up and I wandered on back to my bedroom, and I lay down on my bed and I just started processing all that information, all that knowledge, all that wisdom, all those thoughts, everything about how everything worked. But here's the incredible thing about that. It only lasted for a short period of time. It was only for about a month or two where I was able to recall that knowledge, that wisdom, all that stuff, right? And I knew intrinsically how everything worked. But as time has gone on, it's become less and less and less and less and less. And the reason being is, as a soul, I don't have the capacity to hold that amount of knowledge. I don't have the capacity, even though God utilized this body, this being, as a conduit to flood me with that knowledge. I was disconnected from the combined human consciousness. I wasn't here. I was in that halfway point between the earthly realm and the heavenly realm. So for me to have been able to hold that knowledge, for me to be able to keep that knowledge and be able to give it out to the world, I would have had to have been connected to the entire consciousness of all of humanity. And all that knowledge would have gone from me and out into all of, like, the entire conscious of humanity, the combined human consciousness. And so over a month, about a month's period, it left me. I was able to draw on certain aspects of it for a little bit, but then it became less and less and less and less and less. And I was just like, oh my God. It was so heartbreaking to actually know that I wasn't able to hold that knowledge, that information. So I think that's why God did what God did at that point, because if I was connected to the combined human consciousness, I doubt that would have happened. Excuse me for a minute. I don't know what's going on here. My phone. Oh. So the one thing that I did learn from this whole experience is that when we do something like DMT, acid, something along that lines, what happens is we end up projecting from our consciousness who we are. Like, I remember Joe Rogan talking about his acid trip, and all he saw was jokers, jokers, jokers. Well, that's what Joe Rogan is. He's a joker. He's this character. He's a comedian. That's who he is at his core. Well, for me, at my core, as who I am a builder. I'm a creator. I build hot rods, custom cars, race cars. I've been involved with building some of the fastest machines on the face of the earth, and that's the God's honest truth. And so my whole mind works in geometry. So it would be understandable that if I was to see my consciousness play out in front of me, who I am, it would be in the version of somebody that's cerebral, a head that is all geometry, divine geometry. It's like, I have never studied engineering or anything along that lines, but yet I've been able to build some absolutely incredible stuff. It's just, that's who I am as a being. So when we do these trips, when we use something like this chemical, that's what it does. It projects us. It gives us the image of who we are looking back at us. And the amazing thing, the really number one thing that came out of this experience was, it was a massive, massive, massive mind reset. It reset me at the level of who I am. It like stripped me of everything and took me down to ground level. It's like, this is who you are, Lawrence. This is right here, this box, boom, 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 boom. Your human design, who you are as a being, everything about you, boom, here you go. Reset, hit the reset button, go. And the incredible thing was I did that last trip at the end of January, beginning of February of last year, and it was absolutely incredible the speed to which everything changed, and I was out of that country. It happened like that. It just brought all the pieces together, and it was everything about what I did with doing that acid has been by far the most wonderful thing I've done for myself in a very, very long time. It's reset me in such a way that I'm just happy doing my work now. I couldn't care less about making a name for myself. I'm just happy. Like very, very happy. Very happy. So that was my experience. This video's gone on for just about 30 minutes, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I said I'd share this stuff with you guys. This is who I am, okay? I'm being honest with you. I'm being authentic. I'm being who I am. This is everything that you've been watching on, as far as this guy is concerned, over the last 2 months after I did my video about my near-death experience. This is who I am. I'm being me. From here on out, I'm being me. I'm not dancing around the bush anymore. I'm not just going to give you little tidbits of information. I'm going to give you the full Monty in regards to what it is to be a human being, what it is to live here, and you know what we are actually meant to be while being here. So I hope this video is I don't know, I hope it's helped in some way, shape or form. But other than that, I wish you all a great week, and yeah, talk to you soon. Cheers guys.